No? Yeah. 2 weeks. Oh, goodness. Anyway, I want to dance to it at my birthday party and will be stealing it from you so I can. And the band name is very similar to the name of my car.
Yes.
Just thought I'd let you know.
What's the name of your car?
Tallulah, but I refer to her as Lula.
You see, I would instantly throw out a question to the listeners. Is there a single bloke who has ever nicknamed his car? I suspect not. It's just something the ladies do.
No. Richard Hammond, 2 episodes ago on Top Gear, called his car Oliver, so there you go.
Yes, but Richard Hammond was in a massive crash at lightning speeds. He's almost certainly brain damaged.
Brain damage gives you a lady's brain? Is that what you're saying? Rufus hates the Japanese and you hate all women?
I didn't say it, Sammy. Or read between the lines. Tiny Dan. Is that the sort of thing that would get you excited? Your little tiny heart beating?
Very much so, yeah, I loved it. As I approach...
Like a little hamster on a wheel.
As I approach late middle age, because one of my years is kind of like... it's 3, really, you know, because I'm so very small.
Sure.
My little heart beats so fast.
Yeah.
And that made it beat faster.
Oh,
so
good.
it accelerated me towards the death. The big death.
Sure.
But I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I liked it for most of the reasons that Rufus hated it.
We welcome our web guru, Vic Sharma, to the studio. He is the man who scours the web looking for new music, and he'll be finding some of his tunes, digging them out of his bag later and play them for us. But in the meantime, what do you make of La Lula?
I loved it, actually, yeah. Sweet, hand-picked bass. And, you know, that's the kind of world music we'd like to hear on British mainstream radio, I think.
Hey, you just found it, mate. It doesn't get more mainstream than this. I am going to go on to track 2, which I will talk to you about after this trail. BBC6 Music with me, Stephen Merchant. If you can hear... Will people be able to hear that wild drumming in the background?
Yes.
Jude? Yeah, I do apologise to you if you're just tuning in now, but there is a band who are about to record a session for Tom Robinson. We are pre-recording the show. It's Monday evening. And so if you can hear some wild drumming in the background, then that is which band?
Pocket Gods!
Pocket Gods, who are currently warming up outside. Why these studios are not soundproof, I do not know. I will take that up, don't worry, with BBC Brass. But, yes, if you would like to check out... What are they called?
Pocket Gods!
If you'd like to check out Pocket Gods, then I'm sure you could use the Listen Again function and listen to Tom Robinson's show from Monday, where this is... Obviously, we're hearing this Sunday, we're hearing it live. It's so confusing. I don't even want to begin to get into the concept of time. Of course, a man-made structure. But anyway, let's move on. No, it's a man-made concept. I don't want you to think it exists in any objective reality. Sorry, we can cut this bit out. Don't worry. Let's move on. I feel kind of slightly wired this evening because it's late night, and I feel like I need extra energy. Whereas, you know, because if I was doing this on a Sunday, I would just be much more relaxed. But for some reason, on a Monday evening, I feel like I've got to G myself up. I sound like I'm wired on speed. But actually, all I am is wired for sound, and I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I've got absolutely no idea. I can't just play the record, Jude. I need to explain to people what's going on. You need to cut this record a certain degree of slack because it was put together as part of a build-a-band project at this year's Glastonbury. 5 exceptionally talented young musicians were brought together, and there's a project called National Charity Youth Music in Glastonbury, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, they all got brought together at Glastonbury, and they had to write and record a song over that weekend and perform it in front of people, and that's what they did. And so here is the result. It's called Call It What You Want, We Call It War. The band Revolt. The 10th of December is when you can get your hands on that tune from Revolt. Call it what you want, we call it war. And as I say, the band were put together at the Glastonbury Festival as part of a charity thing. And there you are. There's the first results of that collaboration. And Rufus, what I like about that is there's just enough, you know, generic war talk to you could apply it to any war. Now, you, of course, are a man who keeps up with current culture, but if you want to apply that to one of the great wars, either the first or second, or indeed the Crimean, the Boer, then by all means feel free to do so.
I couldn't get the Battle of Bannockburn out of my head listening to that.
Do you know what? Neither could I suspect. Neither could our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. The year 1314 is forever etched in my memory.
Exactly. But is that song forever etched in your memory?
Not really. I had because I know I suddenly had the memory that it was by young people kind of getting together and doing it as a project. I imagined Terry Wogan kind of coming up to the end after a live studio recording of that and shaking all their hands and going, "Well, you look like you really enjoyed yourselves there, fellas,
Sure.
didn't you?" So there was something kind of rather good-natured and worthy about it. But it's a good song. It's a nice song. I liked it.
I thought it had a nice bit of wallop. I think, you know, I mean, whether we should judge it based on the fact they were all brought together at Glastonbury, I don't know. But Sammy, I thought it had a nice rock quality.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, and the singer had a great voice, but I was thinking the whole time, if they did that in a weekend, what could they do if they were given time? What is the point in throwing people together who are talented and giving them a weekend to come up with something? Sorry,
have you come to this show every week?
I just don't understand the concept. Why do that? Why don't you give them some time? Why don't
you think how great this show could be if we bothered to get together and plan it? It could be extraordinary. It could be award-winning, Sammy. And this shambles is the result. And think about how much better that is than any single one of the Steve shows. So much better.
I mean, I can't agree more with that. But when it comes to music, I don't know. Today, Jude, our producer, tried to inject some culture into me by taking me to Tate Britain, and I saw Boat Shed. That's a garden project of an old man. Taking a shed, making a boat, there's a shed. That's not art. Now that's not to me what
Sounds
you
like
do
something
with
your
these
father would do at a
artists.
weekend.
Exactly. If they were good, you could tell the singer was great, the guitarist was ace. I want to see what they can do with a bit of attention and time.
All right, well, Tony Dan, that's probably too much rock for you.
Way too much rock for me. Yeah, I'm in the Sammy boat. It feels like musical
More of a shed,
equivalent of the Sammy shed. It feels like a musical equivalent of changing rooms. They've put this artificial time limit on it. Why do that? I don't know. I'm not prepared to cut them some slack. I hated it. Get it away. Get it out. Throw it out. Throw it away.
Okay, fine. We'll let the casting vote be yours, Vic Sharma. I actually was quite charmed by Call It What You Want, We Call It War. Were you?
Deeply angry, politicised babies, furious at the state of the world. It's just unfortunate. It sounded like Green Day.
Gogol Bordello next. So we were hearing Super Theory of Super Everything from Gogol Bordello. New single from them, coming from their, album Super Taranta, and that track is released December the 10th. So there we are. I'm afraid to say that I tend to think of them, fun as they are, as a kind of novelty band. Tiny Dan, do you agree?
Possibly. I think that the sort of person who likes them might be more annoying than the actual music, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
They remind me. I might listen
Some of the
to
wild parties we had.
Yes, but I'd
With those
ruin
Polish
it.
builders.
I would ruin it by playing the Gotan project, if you recall. I'm not sure how
That's
familiar
right.
you are with them.
Yeah.
But Gogol Bordello sound like the Gotan project being robbed and then savagely murdered, and their bodies being hurled off the edge of a cliff to a watery grave,
Sure.
which isn't a bad thing. There's a lot of fun to be had there, but a whole album of it, and I can imagine going around someone's house and they say, "Oh, you gotta listen to this. It's really wacky. It's brilliant," and it would get on my nerves. So I've got mixed feelings, I'm afraid.
Talking of deeply, deeply annoying people, Rufus, what was your thought? I don't know why I said that. That's so mean-spirited. So unnecessarily mean-spirited. I suppose I was trying to add a sort of bit of rock and roll tension in the room. Rather like in those late days of the Beatles, imagine we're recording Let It Be, and there's a certain friction here.
There are certain tapes you can get. If you press your red button on your remote control, you can hear what goes on in the studio here, while the songs are playing, and it makes the Trogs tapes look tame, some of it.
Absolutely, yes, silly.
I'm with Tiny Dan on it. I'm with you. The novelty band thing annoys me. I've danced to wedding bands at Hungarian and Polish weddings and had a really good time, but I wouldn't listen to them on my iPod, really.
Sammy, do you feel the same way?
I felt sorry for them when they were kind of used as Madonna's plaything, and since then I've viewed them slightly differently. I've always enjoyed them as a one-off track, so if it comes out of nowhere on your playlist, you go, hey, that was mint. I couldn't listen to a whole album, and I'm not so keen on the new single, and I'm slightly like, oh, because I am an annoying Gogol Bordello fan, unfortunately. I'm not, evangelical. I wouldn't drag you into my house and force it upon you. But, I'm a bit let down because I was hoping for more.
Vic Sharma, our web guru, you are a man who's constantly scouring the web. I imagine the blogs go crazy for him.
Well, that particular track's been around for a while, actually, Steve. It's funny you should say that, and I did download it. And I think if you look on my MP3 kind of client play count, I think it's at 0. I don't think I actually managed to finish listening to the track.
That says a lot of things about what your feelings are towards them.
It's a bit of a joke, isn't it?
It's a terrible, terrible joke, and I wish we hadn't played it. Let's cut this bit out of the show and instead have some good old KRS-One. KRS-One, of course, Sound of the Police. I love the bit in that where he talks about officer, and he makes it sound like officer, and I always think you could kind of do that with any word. You've got to be kind of Stalin. Well, okay, all right, maybe, yeah, possibly. Some would say, of course, that works perfectly, and that is very much the way I run this show, with the dictatorial hand of an absolute fascist master. I should say a communist master, of course. Don't want to confuse me, dictators. There, I was thinking of Stalin. I was thinking of Hitler at the same time. I blurred the two. Of course, a silly, silly mistake to do. Both had moustaches. Enough about history. Clearly, I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's welcome a man who knows plenty about the sounds currently working their ways around the World Wide Web. It is, of course, Web Guru. Round of applause, please, for Vic Sharma.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Vic, for coming in again. And we've always enjoyed the tunes you've sourced in the past. They always add a different spin to the Steve Show. What have you been delving into of late?
My first track's been around for about a month. It is a new single by a kind of bearded French romantic buffoon, Sébastien Tellier.
Sure.
We caught him live, I think, last year, didn't
Yeah.
we? And kind of spoilt beautiful romantic songs by performing them with a cigarette up his nose and stuff like that.
it was very strange compulsion.
But, you know, notwithstanding that, he's back. He's working with one half of Daft Punk, the beautifully named Guy Manuel de Homem Christo.
Ah, yes.
And
His friends just call him Guy.
yes, exactly, I think so. This track's called Sexual Sportswear. The original is actually like an 8-minute electronic opus. It's very, very reminiscent of, you know, the music to A Clockwork Orange.
Sure, right, okay.
Which bizarrely was composed by Wendy Carlos, who used to be Walter Carlos, is she a famous sort of sex change
Right.
electronicist from the 1960s.
A sex change electronicist. Is that a whole separate category in some really trendy record store?
Yeah, look it up. But this is actually a remix by a fellow Frenchman called Sébastien, and it is awesome.
We'll be the judge. That's exactly the reason that we invite in web guru Vic Sharma to introduce tunes like that to us, something that we probably wouldn't normally source on the Steve Show. He's found it on the web. Remind us again of the tune.
It's a Sébastien remix of a Sébastien Tellier track called Sexual Sportswear.
And how does it compare to the full 8-minute version? Very different?
I mean, this is a kind of an extraordinary sort of cut-up, sample-heavy remix. I mean, it's like Mount Vesuvius, really, in terms of dance music. But the original is very kind of like thoughtful, hypnotic, a bit like the opening credits to Escape from New York, if you know that kind
I
of
do
music.
indeed, yeah.
So great in its own way, but completely different from the kind of hip-thrusting extravaganza we've just experienced.
We will have some more tunes from Vic Sharma a bit later in the show, but we have to cram in more musical choices, and we've, I think, failed to get a listener on the phone for the last 2 weeks, and it's something I'm deeply, deeply apologetic to, and I believe finally we've managed to track down someone who was going to come on and recommend a tune for us. Is it Paul? Paul, are you there?
Yeah, hi.
Hello, mate. Sorry, I think we've been trying to catch up with you for a couple of weeks, and I'm afraid we've been sidetracked with other things, new music and whatnot. And I've got a feeling, though, was it your fault that we couldn't get hold of you last Sunday?
Yeah, it was actually. Well, it was actually my mate's fault.
What happened?
Yeah, he spilled beer on my phone.
He spilt beer on your phone. I mean, goodness sake, man. You're going to be on the radio. You're going to be speaking to us. Surely you should seal yourself in a locked room so nothing could befall you. What were you doing with beer?
Well, I don't know what he was doing actually. He was just like, I don't know, he was very drunk, so...
Were you off your face as well? I mean, would it have been an extraordinary conversation with you? Were you pie-eyed?
I might have been guilty to that, yeah.
Oh, wow, that could have been extraordinary. Where do we find you now as we're speaking to you this Monday evening?
I'm just at home.
Sure, just chilling out.
Yeah,
Why not? Yeah, probably watch a bit of telly later.
yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah, well, see how it goes, mate. Just see how it pans out. What do you do for a living? Do you work?
I trained to be a music producer, but I've got no work at the moment, so I'm just trying to find something.
Signing on?
Well, yeah.
Why not? Yeah, get your rent paid and everything.
Yeah.
So, you are a new music fan. No doubt that's the reason you listen to Six Music. What have you been listening to of late?
Well, actually, I've been listening to a lot of Bombay de Roli. I think you played them a couple of weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
And, yeah, I really like them. And I've been listening to This Year on the Culture Show a couple of weeks ago.
Sure.
So
Cool. And how do you normally find your new music?
mainly just on the internet, just on MySpace, really.
Oh, yeah, that's a good place. I've heard about it. You should use Facebook.
Facebook?
Yeah, have you heard about that?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook account, but
Have
I don't
you?
know if you can find music on it.
No, I don't know what I'm talking about, mate. Absolutely no idea. Never bother.